The business sector has given an approving nod to the newly elected leadership of the ANC after months of heavy campaigning between Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa emerged victorious. He won 2,440 votes to Dlamini-Zuma's 2,261. The rand rose by 3% against the dollar on the news, suggesting investor confidence.
All business groups have welcomed the outcome. The South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry urged the new office bearers to drive the necessary and urgent decisions to restore confidence in South Africa as an investment destination. Business Leadership South Africa says the new ANC leadership should focus on the urgent task of addressing inequality, unemployment and poverty. Business Unity South Africa says the new top six will need to take decisive steps to build business confidence and clear the way for investment in the economy, job creation and transformation. And for this to happen, the business body says regulatory certainty and policy stability are required. The mining industry says it hopes to see a renewed focus by the ruling party on responsible and ethical leadership. Agri-SA says it is of great importance that rural safety, land reform and the economy should receive urgent attention. Professor Raymond Parsons of the Northwest School of Business and Governance says Ramaphosa's election has bigger potential to build a bigger, stronger and better economy in future. Organised labour also had its say. The South African Federation of Trade Unions says it has no confidence in the new ANC leadership. It says the working class and poor majority of South Africans have no reason to celebrate because half of the new top six is seen as aligned to new party President Cyril Ramaphosa, while the other half to South African President Jacob Zuma. On the other hand, COSATU says it expects the newly elected ANC president to run a leadership that is sympathetic to worker issues. The National Union of Mine Workers congratulated its founding General Secretary on his new position as the head of ANC. The union says it expects him to be bold and brave and lead South Africa out of the crisis of corruption, state capture and into a prosperous future. Themba Maseko, SABC News, Johannesburg.
For more reaction from the business community, I'm joined by Themba Maseko, who's the Communications Director at Business Leadership South Africa. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News.
Thank you.
In the run-up to conference, BLA said they didn't want to pronounce on which was their preferred candidate, but they wanted someone who was business-friendly. So Ramaphosa is considered business-friendly. What's the next steps to make sure that the economy does get revitalized and South Africa does see more than 2.5% growth?
Well, the next important step is for a conversation between Cyril as leader of the ruling party and business leadership to just sit around the table and talk about what plans need to be put in place to bring the economy back on track. Our biggest challenge as a nation is that our economy has slowed down. We've got challenges of unemployment, poverty and inequality. And the only way you can address those challenges is if you grow this economy and make sure that you involve as many people as possible. And we think business can play quite an important role in that. And we think that Cyril will see us as his partners in moving forward, in strengthening the economy.
How possible is it to grow an economy? Cyril Ramaphosa, when he was campaigning, saying he can create 1 million jobs in the next year and grow the economy by 3% from what it's now, considering that a majority of South African population are economically excluded. I think it's 90% don't contribute significantly to the economy. How is it possible to grow in those kind of circumstances?
Well, the important point to make is that it's actually not complicated to grow an economy. All we need is some policy certainty from the ruling party and government. As we're sitting here, business organizations are sitting around the table trying to come up with plans about how we can grow this economy. Not so certain about creating 1 million jobs in 1 year. That's a lot of work that needs to be done. We think over time, a lot of jobs can be created. But in trying to create those jobs, government and ruling party need to put business at the center because it's business that creates jobs, it's not government. So if we sit around the table and as business, we believe that we can put ideas about what we can do as business to create these jobs, but we also have a clear indication about what we expect government to do to make it possible for businesses to create jobs, for investors to come back, because this economy still has a lot of opportunities for growth. All we need is for government to create the necessary environment for businesses to invest so that we can create jobs, so that we can create more opportunities for more players, especially black players who've been excluded, to come into the business environment. So we remain optimistic that, in fact, a lot of work can be done only if there's partnership between business and government.
When in the run-up to conference and when we were waiting for the results, when we were speaking to analysts in studio and at the JSE, a lot of people said they feel as though the markets want Cyril Ramaphosa, investors want Cyril Ramaphosa, and ratings agencies will look at us and say, if we don't get Cyril Ramaphosa, the chances of a downgrade are much more likely. How do you balance the need to make sure that outside investors are invested in the country with saying we are a sovereign country and we shouldn't be dictated to about who our leadership should be by people who are not here doing the work here?
Well, the funny thing is that markets are a very strange phenomenon. They can work with any politician who's in office. They were expressing an interest or a preference for Cyril because he had made comments that he wanted to grow this economy, and he was basically somebody that they were willing to work with. But it's not so much markets dictating, it's markets expressing a preference, and when that preference is realized, obviously there's excitement. All investors, and we're not just talking about external investors, even our own businesses just need somebody who's going to say, I want to work with business to grow this economy so that jobs can be created. It's not so much dictation, but it's more a preference to say, hey, let's become partners and work together to grow this economy.
You, in your personal capacity, have worked as a government spokesperson, a DG for Public Service and Administration.
Yeah.
So you understand the government side and you also understand the business side now at BLSA.
Yeah.
What are the frictions that keep on happening, and why has government and business not worked together before in a manner that's going to create more jobs like you're talking about and grow the economy?
We call it a trust deficit between government and business at this stage. Business believes that government is not making the right decisions at the right time. That will give the business community some confidence that there's scope for them to invest more into business. On the other hand, we've had politicians, government people beginning to make noises and presenting business as enemy to development, which is actually not true. All we need is to just sit around the table for business to say, government, these are our plans, and for government to say, okay, if these are your plans, what sort of support you need from us as government? And I think there's so much scope for some consensus to be reached so that we can work together. The government and business need to be in partnership if we really want to see this economy growing.
Themba Maseko from BLSA, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Time for a short break. I'll have more business news for you after that. Do stay with us.